Okay, so speaking of, what we need to do about with Subud, what we need to correct, mistakes we need to correct, and what are the things to do, let's talk a little bit about social democracy. I was reading in An Extraordinary Man, someone was talking about how they went to the international center they had there in Indonesia, and Bapak would come there, and it was the board of directors and things like this, and he would come quite a bit, and there was somebody there who wasn't a member of Subud. Bapak, they noticed that Bapak would be very wanting to be very especially nice to this person or pay a lot of attention to him because he wanted to make him feel, part of the whole thing. And they had kind of a thing there about social democracy. They didn't want anybody to feel excluded. They wanted everybody to feel like a part. Even the lowest person should feel a part of the company or whatever it was that they had. Now, let's compare that with Subud. And I'll just speak from my own experience. I never felt comfortable in the Subud organization. At first I kind of went along with it. Now, Subud said that Subud needs leaders, and it needs intelligent people, and it needs leaders. And, hopefully you could have a combination of that, an intelligent leader. But leaders and people who have intelligence are not going to feel, and I didn't feel, I don't claim that I have a lot of intelligence, that I'm a bit of that kind of person. I'm not because you could say there are two kinds of people, if you want to. You can say that people just go along with whatever and they just agree, and they're not troublemakers, and they don't, they're not really, And then there are leaders, and leaders are more independent. Now, of course, in Subud, if you have a leader, that leader has to be somebody who is operating from content. In other words, from the guidance of God. It has to be that kind of leadership, not the kind of leadership or too much thing just going off the board and proposing all sorts of radical things or going against spiritual things. Like oh yeah, let's all do Ladian together. This seems to be a thing when people get off from the official organization. They can hardly wait to do Ladian, the men and the women together, which is a recipe for disaster. And if you just look at it, no, they need to be separated. It's in the Ladian. That's from the guidance. There's no thing about them getting together. It's all, I think they want to. There's no content there. So I'm not talking about leadership that is of the mind. Mental leadership. I'm talking about real leadership that has content, has God's culture in it, so to speak. So in my own experience, I did not feel comfortable there because there were these people who ran they were the top dogs. And of course nobody would ever say that. They're just, assistant helpers, and they're just not and they would talk around it pretty good. But the fact of the matter was that when something important happened, they got to, they tested, and then, and the way they tested, I saw pretty early on, their testing was retarded. In fact, on the whole, it seemed to me, that was my observation, that most of the helpers didn't coincide. They weren't with the group. They weren't the leaders, spiritual leaders. They weren't moving forward and having enlightening things to say. No, they were the ones who, among other things, when Baba pointed out that, because that's a big group, Los Angeles, and Baba pointed out that when you got further along, your Ladihan would become more quiet, and you wouldn't say much, and you wouldn't move as much. And within 2 weeks, all those people have been running around the room. They all got, quiet. So obviously, they were not because my own experience of that is like took 30, 40 years. Then at some point, I don't know, in the 2000s, at least 40, around 40 years, one day I noticed that most of my body was going on inwardly, and there wasn't a lot of movement. In fact, for quite a long period of time, and even today, if I'm by myself, if I'm with somebody else, I will speak and things will come out. But if I'm by myself, it's quiet. But it's a lot happening. Plenty of stuff's going on, and there's some movement, but not very much. But it took 40 years. I came to it. But when Baba talked about it before, within 2 weeks, the people who were supposed to be setting the example. What is that? Following the Ladion strictly. I mean, really following it. Whatever God wants you to do. If you're going to shout, no, they all went, Allah, 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 and they would walk around them very quietly. I noticed they always walked in the opposite direction I was going. It was funny. Anyway, I wasn't comfortable there. If you had intelligent ideas and you put them forward, then it was like being in a bureaucracy. You have to go through this excruciating progress where they would decide, if they were going to test it or not. In other words, to decide, going against Bapak's advice once again. Of course, you're hopefully following guidance and everything. You make decisions. Anyway, coming back to the social democracy part. So leaders in Subud soon left. I mean, a lot of them left because they weren't willing to go along with things. I didn't leave. I was dedicated and really wanted Subud and the gift particularly, but I wanted Subud as well to succeed. We were looking forward to it. I had 6 kids. We wanted all to be part of this big community, but instead, that helper grip caused a lot of mischief. So, speaking again of social democracy, if you want to have social democracy where everybody feels that they're equal and they're part of the group, then you can't be having power hierarchies. You can't be feeling that some of the people there, and I must say again, actually the ones who are more retarded would be the leaders, or the ones who everybody would go to. Well, what do the helpers think? What do the helpers receive when they test? And yet, in my experience, and tell me I'm wrong. Did the helpers do the fast every year? Baba said it was a universal command, universally to do the fast. All of mankind should do the fast. Well, particularly super people. And if you're moved by your soul and your soul controls you, you will fast. That's that's the experience I had. I don't know but I saved my life. I come pretty close because it agrees with what Suvi said, and it also agrees with my experience that there's no question about it. Fast. You fast. You don't test about fasting. Well, they all test themselves out of it, or they have funny fasts. They test until 4 in the afternoon, or 4 in the afternoon, then they stop. All kind of odd things that have nothing to do with, if you're following the guidance of God. That's not how it works. You fast from dawn until sunset. That's what happens. In my fast, apparently there's a kind of an astronomical dawn. There's a dawn that comes, but there's a dawn that comes even before that. It must be very fine, and the instruments don't trace it. So they say, well, now it's astronomical dawn. There's something else, because it's a few minutes before that. I have to set my clock ahead of time, because I'll be having my cup of coffee and smoking my cigarette, and all of a sudden, I get stopped. I go to have the coffee. No, no coffee. Can't drink it, can't smoke the cigarette. Put the cigarette out. That happens every year. Like clock. I mean, that's... No, they wouldn't do the fast. So yeah, I felt uncomfortable, and eventually the Almighty took me out of it. And it was a relief too, because who wants to be around, an upside down organization where, the leaders, the ones who are moving ahead, in a spiritual organization, the people who are making the most progress and are actually changing. And as he said, you're not changing. Why? Because you don't have the courage. You got to get with the program. Those people who weren't changing, who weren't growing, who weren't doing the fast, they were in charge of the affairs of the group, ultimately. Because it always comes down to testing. Okay, so we have this idea, now we'll go and test. No. You can think all you want. You can say, oh no, but the testing God will, God does this and God does that. Well, don't be too fast to speak for God, because I don't want to get into it. It's too much inner work, I don't want to wear myself out. That's why it's practical. But testing has to do with source to source. If you know how to test, as I've said many times, and you remember, if you have intelligence and you look at things, you know that Baba said you can't really test. You don't really know how to test. And I know why you don't. I mean, because, these things don't take forever to learn. God teaches you these things. Teaches you how. Testing is source to source. As Christ said, as you ask, so shall you receive. Because he was telling them a simple way, in the Essene Gospels you can see this. He was telling them a simple way that they could take a couple weeks and get rid of all their devils and do some fasting and everything else. And somebody, some joker from, some person that had a devil in them or something, was out of it. Wasn't cool. Said, yeah, but what about the blah, 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 blah. And Christ said, according to the Essene Gospels, he said, well, as you ask, so you shall receive it. So he gave them then a very strict, long-term, practically, oh my God, thing they had to do in order to achieve whatever spiritual health or get themselves, together that was necessary. In the spiritual world, it doesn't fool around. There's no fooling around. Timing. So I would say, in my opinion, Subud is far from being socially democratic. And yet that's what Rabbi was always kind of where he would be around. He would think, I guess, he thought that we were having social democracy, or that somehow we didn't want to, and so he let us go wherever we wanted to do. But of course we want social democracy. Everybody wants social democracy. Equality and looking out for each other, social welfare, another thing he talked about. As human beings, we want to look out for each other, and we want to treat each other as equals, because you know what? We are equals, I mean, a human being is a human being. And you may be able to play the piano until, everybody just goes nuts about it, but that doesn't mean that you're not Suleiman Dufford and you don't have things that you do that aren't so cool, Not that he doesn't do a lot of cool things. I don't know, is Suleiman still alive? I hope so. What a pianist! Oh my God! But just because you have a talent doesn't make you a superior person. Just because you're intelligent and have a big brain doesn't make you superior. Just because you've learned how to be clever and make a lot of money doesn't make you any better than anyone else. Money will tell you differently. Money always thinks, oh yeah, the rich people, they know what they're doing. By golly, they made a lot of money. You didn't make any money. You're poor, so you're nothing. That's money talking. Anyway, I just want to bring this up. I just want to be honest with you. I never felt comfortable in that group. In fact, I got more and more unhappy about it and tried to do things about it, but every time I would try to do something, that's a locked door. You can't get in there. Those kids, now they're older. A lot of them have died, but a lot of them are still around, hanging on. They're going to be honored helpers, whatever, until the day they die. You know? They didn't make room for the new members, the new kids, the new generation. A much better state, those kids. No, they wanted to take over. They wanted to start being active. No, they wouldn't let them. Well, we'll test about that. Sure enough, no, they weren't good enough, What kind of testing was that? And the kids didn't know it. But they just left, How many Subud youth remained in Subud? Most of them never got over a natural thing that, gosh, their parents were a little odd and belonged to this odd organization, that kind of thing. Kids get ideas in their head because they go to the public school and nobody else does anything like that, so they think, well, my parents must be nuts. Crazy. I'm speaking generally. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. Alright, so that's about the size of that. We want, and people all over the world, regular people, we want the workers and the unfortunate people to be represented. The people who are struggling, they need to be represented. And you need to do this in a normal way through following guides, which you can do easily if you've been progressing. 50 years doing the exercise, by now you should be, your soul should be stronger than you are. I've had people tell me, Ben Subud, because that supposed to happen after 12 years. After 12 to 14 years, Subud said, your soul will become stronger than you are. Meaning that whenever you try to do something that's not positive from the point of view of the soul only lets you do positive things, he said, that it would stop you. Well, it started happening to me after about 12 or 14 years because I was sincere and full-hearted about doing the exercise, so sure enough, my soul got stronger than I was. It was nothing unusual on an ordinary progress. And yet, after 30 years, I put it to a bunch of helpers. You all know who they are. You know these people I'm talking about. And I said, well, but haven't you ever been stopped from doing something? Well, no, I can't say that I have. What kind of progress is that? Not just one. None of them could say they had done it. Now I'm sure there's a lot of you, if I get lucky and if I can get people to watch these tapes, because we need to fix this thing. You need to have the right people looking after new members. That's fundamental. And you need to have some pretty intelligent, guided people to figure out, I don't know the answer myself. I think maybe I'll give it a quick shot. It's just a rough shot. Maybe I should. How to be sure and to kind of be aware of when people go off from doing the real latihan. For instance, a real latihan is obey, 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 obey. Yahidra one Allah. Okay. Here's a lower fourth line. Yanaha, Yanaha, Yanaha. Sounds pretty good. That's not the real Ladiyan. That's the lower force doing Ladiyan. They love to do Ladiyan. They love to worship God too. Wake up. Who's doing the Ladiyan? Who's having the real exercise? And who's putting it into practice? Come on, people. We don't have all day. Everybody's getting older. I got maybe 3 years. That's what I think. About 3 more years. I want to change. I want Subud to be organized and in the right way. I need people to get on board who intelligent, pay attention people who really think about things and who can see, as many have, that Subud is not being run in a functional way that's in accordance with the guidance of God. It's being run by retarded, half-hearted people who are pretty good at looking good and saying things in a spiritual way. Or just dominating other people. There's so many different ways that, man knows very well, because he's been doing it for generations and generations, how to appear to be benign to those who don't pay any attention, or who are not, just go along with whatever. No, I think that sounds good to me. I mean, and Bapak said that they go on and on and on about it, but they're not. They just go along with whatever it is. So if it's bad, they go along with that. If it's good, they'll go along with that as well. But come on, kids, let's stop this. Let's stop it. Let's move to so I was gonna to correct our mistakes. Let's do it. And then also, I don't know, I feel funny about this. I probably won't work. But let's see. I thought, well, maybe we could look at how you could check people without even getting all, has invaded my personal body. Even though Baba said there's no such thing, as people get very touchy. He said something about my Matihan. They criticized my Matihan. My feelings are so hurt. So you have to be pretty careful. It's like, well, how could you do it? Well, let's just throw out an idea or two. I'm sure there are better ideas. I haven't thought about it. I've never come to a conclusion about this. It's the night after the fast. Maybe I could just come up. Maybe something will come up. I'm taking a big risk. You could have the whole group, and you could say that we will split up into 2 parts. 2 parts for the men and 2 other parts for the women. And we'll pair off. And we will check each other's lottery. For instance, let's take Rashad Gerantino. I know for a fact that Rashad Gerantino does a real Ladiyan. I love to do Ladiyan with it because it's alive and it's active, and you feel no interference or nothing outside of. You feel that body. You feel it. Weinstein. What was his name? Harvey Weinstein. No, Herbert Weinstein. I don't know. Is he still alive? Maybe he passed over too. He probably did. I don't know. Anyway, his was a good body. He did the real one. There were a couple of women I knew. Amina Swartz used to do the real body. And that's just in my little, regional area of California. Check each other's body on. So if you both agree that, of course there could be, it can't be perfect, but at least it's a step in the right direction. So everybody pair off and check each other's body on. with goodwill and from the inner. Discipline yourself. Because, a person can stand there for half an hour and not do anything. They're doing a good body harm, And a person can make a lot of noise and sing a beautiful song, and they're not doing body harm. You have to be able to distinguish. You can learn to do it. Baba used to have the guys receiving over there. So if we all did it, we paired off, it would be kind of like, hey, it's a chummy, it's a team up thing. We're going to check each other's body harms. And then if you find somebody that you think is, isn't doing it, is not actually doing the body harm, I don't know, you could have 2 more people, so have 2 check that person. Or you're not willing to be checked, you have so low self-confidence and you don't want somebody to say, yeah, no, it's a lot of it sounds fine to me. Okay, good, fine, that's it. Then it should be, everybody should be like that, so there's no problem. But every few months, every 6 months or something, you should have a body harm check. Does it have to be a serious thing? No, it isn't. But you want to, because every now and then somebody slips off the wagon, so to speak. It's easy to do. They get distracted. It's a wake-up call. So you would want your body harm. Maybe somebody, if you gotta go be moderate about it. Of course, it's pretty. It's a little touchy, but it doesn't have to be that touchy. It can be an ordinary thing. You check it, because if we don't all do the body harm, or 95% of us do the real body harm, we're not going to grow. We're not going to develop. We're not going to go anywhere. Sue, we talked about this a lot. Well, okay, let's find a way to do that. That's just a thought. All right, those things have to be done. We have to do these things. Now. All right, okay. That's it. Okay. Love ya. I'm doing this in goodwill. I have nothing against any of you. I love you. I want you to be happy. I want Subud to progress. And I want mankind to be happy. And the only way mankind is going to be happy is if they start doing the worship, or allow God to work on them. How else are you going to fix mankind? Then have a march? Okay. All right, that's it.